There was this guy walking around in like blackface or
Oh.
something. Yeah. Welcome to the BoyFriends podcast, where we help you find your circle
And your man.
I'm Jarrod D King, and we are back with another season. Oh my gosh, it's been so long, and we have a new host. So wait, why don't we get a little introduction from you before we jump into everything?
Yeah. So my name is Greg. I'm a creative director for a toy company. My background is in graphic design, so I'm definitely in like the creative world. I work a lot with kids.
What's your favorite color?
It's definitely not pink. It's hot pink. They're two very distinct different shades.
It's hot pink?
Yes, it's hot fuchsia.
Hot fuchsia.
Which is what my doctor told me last time I went for my labs.
As you can see, Renee and Mike are no longer with us as full-time hosts, but hopefully they can jump in on a few episodes as guests, and we can get some updates from them. Noel, what's
Hi.
been going on with you lately?
God, it's been a long time.
It's been a minute.
It's been a minute. I went back to school. Okay.
Okay,
I'm in school.
okay.
I'm in school.
Nice.
Doing some college prereqs before getting into a new career down the line into human services. Starting like a guidance counselor, counseling therapist role eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Just mapping out the next 20 years of my life.
Happy to hear about the progression or the growth, I should
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because like this past year for me has been one of growth, has been one of just like a lot of change. I mean, we're definitely going to get into it a little bit now because like our topic today is friendship breakups. The stuff that I had kind of dealt with in the past year, I guess, I don't know, it's kind of shifted some perspective for me. So, we're going to jump into that as well. Have you guys recently gone through any friendship breakups or anything like that? Anything recently? What about you, Greg?
As far as recently, I mean, yes and no. Like, it was a dude I was kind of hanging out with. So it wasn't like a relationship. Therefore, it wasn't a relationship breakup, but it was also like kind of like a friendship breakup. And it was more so like this individual just was like, very admittedly from the beginning, like wasn't great like at regular like communication. And then at one point he's like, I think it's best if we just be friends. I'm like, okay, cool. And then after that, like the efforts to like keep in touch would just be like random, like, hey, what's going on? Like texts like 2 weeks later, like nothing was there. And I'm like, I'm not interested in that. So like it wasn't like a ghosting situation, wasn't a breakup, but I was like, I'm just matching the energy you're giving me. So this sounds like petty, but like I hadn't heard from him in a while, which is fine. I was driving home, I think after Christmas, I was like, oh, it's funny, I haven't heard from him in a while. And the next day he texted me. I was like, oh, like this long auto message, like, you're so great. You're better than Christmas is not about Jesus and Mariah Carey. Christmas is about you. And I was like, what is this?
That's a compliment.
It is. But I would just like, and I have the audio. I can play it for you later. Really nice guy, really like well-intentioned. But I was just like, I don't have the energy for this. So like, this sounds petty as hell, but I like waited 19 days because that's how long it took him to text me. And I just said, Happy New Year.
Did he respond at all to that? Okay.
He like if I kept in touch with him, like he would respond, but I was like, I kind of just like removed myself. So it wasn't a true like breakup, but it was just like, I don't.
Sometimes that's how you kind of have to like back out of situations like slowly.
Yeah. What about you?
The big one for me last year was I had a good friend. We had bought tickets to go see Beyonce. And it was funny because we had like some issues prior to the concert actually coming up. And so by the time the concert comes, we haven't spoken for like a month. Basically, the situation was I had a friend prior to him who did not treat me very well. And he knew all this stuff. And then he moved out and then like intentionally became friends with him. It felt like a betrayal to me. I tried explaining it. I feel like I went through all the right steps to try to like work through it. And he wasn't hearing me, or he thought I was being dramatic or whatever, which I am accused of very often. I don't know why.
What?
I'm not dramatic.
No.
I mean, the optics of that situation aren't great. Like, obviously, I don't know either those individuals or like the real specifics, but I'm just like that's shitty.
Yeah.
It makes a statement, whether it's genuine or planned or whatever it is. It's still it says something.
Yeah. Like
How long was this friendship?
This is about 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah, or like a year and a half, something like that.
That's
It was like, yeah. And I still think about it sometimes. I guess I'm still kind of mourning the friendship a little bit. I think it takes a while to get over those things.
I'm still mourning a friendship that I lost maybe 6 years ago.
Yeah.
I had a really good friend of mine that he was involved with a partner at the time. We gotten close. This is with a former ex-boyfriend of mine. They broke up. Then my friend found another guy who was amazing. Like, sweetheart, like, gorgeous, funny. He and I would always text back and forth, like, memes. Became, like, I would say, like, my first bromance. Because he wasn't, like, typical, like, not typical gay, but, like, very, just, like, very straight acting, you know? Just, like, I felt like there was no underlying things, like, no sexual tension, like he didn't think I was hot or vice versa. I mean, of course he was gorgeous, but, like,
I will say there's a sparkle in your eye when you're talking about him.
Because he was, like, he meant a lot to me, because I felt like I had a genuine friend with no intentions. Like, we were talking about wedding stuff, like, I'll be in his wedding. We've cried together on the beach about our relationship, stuff like that. And I guess my friend felt the jealousy of our friendship forming, and he stopped that. And I think because my friend felt he had to go with what his partner wanted, like, we ended our friendship.
Okay.
When I found out before we ended our friendship that I wasn't to be in their wedding, I was completely destroyed. I was, like, cried, and it was like, that really hurt me, because I can't do anything to win his friendship back. So I have to respect what his partner wants now.
Yeah.
And, like, I still have this, like, Adidas Polar Plunge hoodie that he left in my house, like, years ago. And, like, I try to give it back to his sister to give back to him. And I had no communication, so I still have it in my closet. And sometimes I still wear it. It's just, like, a memory that I have of him. And sometimes, like, I'll see stuff. I see stuff that was sent to him that I can't. It really sucks.
Yeah.
It's like beyond your control.
Yeah. I can see, like, well, go ahead. What were you gonna say? Yeah. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But it's like, that stuff is painful.
It's
like,
It's like bringing with a family member.
Yeah.
Like, friendships is like forming family members, and, like, when you lose them, it's really hard because you can't do nothing. And I know he follows, like, my Nono Preps account on Instagram, and that's the only way I can see him. And maybe if I post something, he might see it, but we have no contact with each other whatsoever.
And you said it's been 6 years?
Maybe. Well, I've been together with Carlos 4, maybe 8.
Do you feel like enough time has passed that it might be worth kind of just reaching out to try and reconnect?
I know that. I know they relocated to California, so seeing him will be a different situation. I've written him long DMs to say I'm sorry or whatever, but it was just.
And he didn't respond to those.
No.
That was that closer to when, like, the friendship kind of ended, or was this?
It was like, my friend told me that I don't like the way you and my boyfriend are speaking to each other, or constantly speaking to each other, and we don't have a friendship. That's not my fault, honestly. I became better friends with his partner than him. But it's a two-way communication thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, like, you can't help that.
Did he think, like, you were trying to, like...
Absolutely not. I never intended on anything but friendship with this person.
Yeah. We know you didn't, but did their fiance think you were, like, trying to get in? Or
no.
They weren't insecure about the relationship. They were just jealous about the friendship.
I knew that my friend was jealous of my friendship with his partner, because they didn't have much in common together, and me and this person did, like, everything, like the most stupidest shit ever. We would just send random texts about stuff and talk about things, I
mean, I guess, from an insecure perspective would be, he's a little bit replaceable.
It's not the issue I thought he had, but it's still an insecurity thing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
That's not to say that he was justified in how he treated you or anything like that.
No.
But yeah, just kind of seeing it. But like, how then do you what happens after a breakup like that, like a friendship breakup like that? Like, what do you do to kind of?
You can let time pass and see what happens. Like, I just rekindled one recently with a good friend of mine, my first gay best friend ever. Time passed. I'm in a better place, a happier place. And I just one day messaged him like, hey, we spoke on the phone. It's like nothing bad had happened. Our friendship is still there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just time and place.
Well, that certainly speaks to the actual friendship that was there, right? Like
Yeah.
so that's a real thing that you're able to kind of revisit. I think it's also really interesting that like some of the scenarios that you kind of shared have all been about how a friendship changes when the other person is in a relationship.
Yeah.
And it should be the case, right? Because if we're picking good people for ourselves, they should be people that fit into our kind of entire lives. And of course it's going to be in bits and pieces. It's not like they're going to be a perfect puzzle that does every single thing, but like they should fit into your community, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I guess where I relate to that is I have really good friends. So like I have not lost any friendships, but like after getting out of my last like romantic relationship, I got two similar comments from different girlfriends that aren't in the same group but know each other. And it was coming from a very like supportive place. It wasn't like shady or mean or anything, but they were just like, oh, they're like, I feel like you're like your old self again. And I was just like, oh, that one hit. Like I didn't, but I get it. Like you definitely prioritize things differently when you have a partner.
Yeah.
And like where I'm supposed to be exactly where I'm supposed to be, so I didn't lose any relationships. That other person wasn't really present with my friends.
Yeah,
was the other way around. So it's good, and I get to make more time for them.
Yeah, my friend Andy was like, I knew you weren't happy at that time. You were not yourself. You were not the Noel you were, and like now I feel like we are back to a place where like we can continue our friendship.
Yeah, it's really interesting how different people and how different energies can kind of shift how you walk through life a little bit, you know, just trying to make stuff okay, even sometimes in the back of your mind where you're like, what the heck is, you know, like you're like, this doesn't make any sense, why am I going along with this, but let me just make it nice because, you know, you're trying to go along to get along, you know. Just don't want any tension, you don't want any issues, and then eventually it, you know, some stuff just kind of
I don't think there's nothing I could have done with a friend that I lost differently. Should I have texted less? Should I have cared less? I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So that actually was another question that I had, was like, what was everyone's contributions to these like breakdowns? There's always two sides to every story, and I'm big on taking accountability.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess, I can say like for the situation that I had mentioned, I don't actually, you know, give me a second. Because I don't know if I was wrong. I'm big on taking accountability, but I'm just like, what can I take accountability for in this situation? I mean, I don't know. When I think about it, it's like, I feel like I followed what my therapist told me, that I had friendship breakups before, you know? So, I mean, going through my own self-work in the past, I'm like, okay, let's not just spring it up and just like blow it out of proportion. Let's like talk about the issue.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I feel like I did that. So I don't know. But I mean, as far as that situation is concerned.
Well, everything's going to be like a what ifs. Because like, even if I'm thinking about, even if it's not friendships, different things that maybe didn't play out the way I would have liked them to, I'm like, well, what could I have done differently? And when it comes to certain people, like whether it be friendships or boyfriends, like after you're outside of it, sometimes you're like, no, there's nothing. If you had done it another way, it still would have been like an issue.
I felt like if I would have changed anything, it would have been like forced. If I had to force myself to engage with my friend, it wouldn't go anywhere. It'd be like, hey, wait for a response. How are you? Good. It's like so dry. It's like one of these
Hinge,
it was that
Hinge text exchanges.
It was that dry.
Don't get me started.
Every partner he's had, the two that I was close with, they were the star of the relationship. they were the most outgoing. They were like fun, and he was just very like dry toast. Dry toast. Nice guy, dry toast. And I'm not gonna try to force myself a friendship with you or continue it or trying to engage to make you feel comfortable with what I have with your partner.
Yeah, because you're crusty with no butter.
You know, it's interesting because I've been out, and I feel like, you know, we have an episode planned at some level about like being the ugly friend or being the outsider within a friend group, even though you're like in a friend group, but you're kind of like a little step apart, or you're like with somebody who's like really attractive and everybody starts talking to them in the club and you're just like sitting there with your drink and you're like, okay, well, this is nice. And I feel like what you had just mentioned kind of triggers that memory for me. Because I've had that experience, but it's also like, okay, are we going to succumb to feeling like you're less than the other person, or are you going to kind of embrace what the situation is? You know, the guy that everybody wants to be with is my boyfriend, so
right?
You know,
and any relationship I ever had, friendship, like whatever, like you'll get the best from me when it's natural. So when something has to be forced from me, I can't fake it. It's really hard for me to be like, oh, hi, how are you? And then like I can do that for a minute and then I won't continue doing that.
So another question I had, because the way that I am, if I'm like done with you, you're blocked and there's no coming back. Like, and is that toxic?
Whatever the eyes don't see, the heart don't feel, kind of thing. Yeah. So if you don't see it, it won't affect you.
That's kind of how I feel. Like, especially like through like social media and stuff, like your profiles and stuff, you're probably going to get blocked at that point. I don't want to see you, you know, having fun with my ex-friend on Instagram.
So petty. So petty.
Is that petty? Like, from my point,
I look at it like that.
No. I'm just saying, like, my ex-friend having fun with my other ex-friend on Instagram. Get the hell out of here. I'm not watching that.
I mean, that's fine. Yeah, that's valid.
I think there's a couple of different ways to look at that. I definitely agree. You don't want to see certain things.
Nah, right? I know.
But I think like for like it takes a lot for me to like block someone. Like,
it really doesn't take that much for me.
So that's the thing is, I think it's definitely healthy to like remove things from your feed or your life that aren't good for you, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, at that point, you could simply just unfollow them. So like, if it's always like direct to the block button every time, that's when I go, I got questions for you, Jarrod.
Okay,
like,
well,
I'm all about
ask me the question.
No, but it's just not the way that I operate. So I'm not going to say it's petty for you, but for me, it seems.
Yeah. It seems like a lot.
I'm not as friendly with the block button. You guys are besties.
Yes.
The friendship button, the block button and I have had a friendship breakup.
Yeah, yo, I mean, I'm like, there are certain things that I would rather not revisit. I never do it as a subliminal message to the other person. I always do it when I'm like, okay, this is done or this has become toxic.
You're just protecting yourself.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of where I am with that. So you and I have a mutual friend who I actually fell out with.
Oh?
Did you hear this story?
You don't say.
I heard the story recently. I was like, it was after I'd agreed to. I was like, I don't want to know this.
I found out about it too. I was like, oh.
How did you find out about it?
Because I went to go see him and he was there.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know.
He was actually staying with me for a while.
He was.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, look, I don't like, my thing is, I don't have an issue with him like that, but it wasn't a good look. It wasn't a good look. I mean, I guess honestly, I'll briefly summarize it so everybody understands what exactly we're talking about. I met a friend last summer, hit it off really quick, and you know, we were good friends. We went to Florida together. Then we had a trip to Atlantic City for Halloween. We went to this party in Showboat, I think. There was this guy walking around in like blackface or
Oh.
something. Yeah. And I was like, throughout the, I was like, do you see this guy? Do you see? He wasn't even paying attention because he was too busy dancing and having fun. So I was just like, okay, this guy's crazy, whatever. So he eventually does see him, and he's like, at this point, like, we've been drinking. He's a little tipsy, whatever. And he was like, oh, I just want to go say something. I'm just like, no. Let's not even, because I'm like, from my perspective, and I don't know what his was or whatever, but I'm just like, I'm not trying to fight, get hurt, get arrested, get kicked out of this place because of this goofball who decided to be offensive. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, it's offensive. Yes, you have a right to be angry. I as I was, but it was just like, for me, I was like, what are you gonna do? So my friend didn't like that I had kind of like tried to like stop him from like going at this guy. And so he kind of said some nasty things to me and then kind of waved me off like I was nothing. And so I gave him his ID and his card, and I went back to the hotel. And the next day I just got a Greyhound back home.
A Greyhound?
So, yeah, I just left early. So, yeah, we drove in together, and then I left the day after. By the time I got home, he had blocked me. So, and yeah, so that's how that ended. But I will say that there's no like hatred or there's no deep feelings of like anger or anything with him with that situation. But I knew that I needed to remove myself.
Did you understand why he was upset?
Honestly, not really. Like, I understand like him being a little bit annoyed of me kind of defending him against like this guy who was like doing some like racist behavior.
This isn't like the takeaway from this, but out of curiosity, what was this individual's costume?
Yeah.
Again,
it doesn't
change it, but I'm trying to get a little more context.
It was like a Black Sox. He was like a Black Sox fan or something like that, but he had like a black painted face. So I don't know how those two go together. And I was like, maybe he was just trying to be a Black Sox fan, and then he just like, I knew like you know not to do that.
Dressed as like Sammy Sosa because he's Dominican, it's darker skin. Maybe
that would be effed up.
It would but be I mean, like,
too. Regardless, you know not to do that.
Like when you said blackface, I think about like when
I thought he was doing some kind of character costume or something.
When like
it doesn't change it, but I would just.
Do you recall when Ted Danson did that with Whoopi Goldberg back in the day? Like he did blackface during her like roast thing. Like, she got major shit for it.
Oh really?
I don't.
Yeah, like he showed up in blackface to a comedy roast when they were together. And he got ripped for it.
Yeah. I think people need to understand that that's like not okay. I don't know why people feel like they could just come out in public like that. Would you, like what?
How long were you guys friends before this happened?
We were friends since like July, August. So I would say
a few months.
Yeah, a few months. Nothing too long. But I mean, we were talking to each other like every week. We were going out like every week. So,
would you ever like reach out to Rick to like talk about what had happened or reconcile? Considering now that like there's a degree of separation of friendships now.
To reconcile, I mean, I don't know if I would want to get back to that. I think where I am now, like I want to find people who are more compatible with me. You know, this is not to say anything negative about him, but I'm just like, I'm a different person. And we just have different.
I mean, you guys were compatible. We just have
very different ways of being, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm trying to find people who are more in line with that. We have some common interests and we have a lot of fun together, but I don't think we can be as close as we were before.
So basically, it comes to like your morals, comes to race and things like that. Maybe you guys don't agree on stuff like that. Because before you guys had a common relationship prior to that happening.
Did. But I mean, our relationship was primarily housewives and going out.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
So it wasn't like surface level, but it was like
it wasn't super deep.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Okay. But my thing is, I don't know if I would want to get back to going out every weekend or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm cool to hang out once in a while. I mean, if we were able to talk through, or even if we're able to just be in the same space and just kind of pay it and just be like, okay, that happened, I'm fine with that. Like, I personally, like, it's different because I feel like I wasn't like cut to the core with that. Mm-hmm. Like, that was a hurtful moment. Mm-hmm. But like with some other friendships that I've had or some other situations, those hurt a little bit deeper. And those are some people that I would be like, no. Yeah. But you know, like how would, I don't know how he and I would get back to that place because he had me blocked, and you know, in response I blocked him. So I don't know how that's gonna come back. So
how do we solve a problem like Maria?
Get her a different name. No, but I totally understand. Like, you need to find. I get that, because like, even, and I don't mean to keep making things about like relationships, because like it comes for like friends too. But like, I think what we need and what we want out of people changes over time. And so I definitely, I can't think of a specific example, but I know I've been in situations where I met people like, oh, they're really cool and they're really fun, and then after like a couple more hangs or a couple months, I'm just like, oh, you're not vibrating on the level that I need you to. Like, you're a good time friend. Like, so I mean, I definitely get like, sometimes people just don't cut it for what you need.
Yeah. That's kind of how I feel. And I feel like
it's a good time, and then you have an experience and you're just like, I don't want to be part of this experience if this is a regular part of how you operate and act and whatever. So like, I totally get that. Like, okay, cool. I'm just removing myself from the situation now. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess that's kind of been my story for the last year. I mean, like, going through that, going through those couple of things has really kind of gotten me to a place where I'm like, okay, maybe I need to switch up where I meet people.
Well, friendships is like, it's like dating.
Yeah.
It's like,
and you know,
dating.
my thing is I feel like with friendships, sometimes I jump in a little too fast.
Like dating.
Yeah, I guess. But the friends at least stick around for a little bit longer.
True.
I don't know your dating history, but I feel like this is an episode.
That's why, you know, it's
we
like...
actually have a special guest coming to the pod.
Well,
yeah.
Well, shit.
That's kind of my story.
I'm very cautious with friendships now.
Yeah, I am too, because it can be a lot of trouble, or you know, it can be a lot of, you know, work. So didn't you say you broke up with like a couple or something recently?
Yes. It was a couple that we met last summer on the beach, and they were married, right?
I think so.
Yeah, they're married, and the one had his own boyfriend, and the one I was getting close to did not have his own boyfriend.
Okay.
And he and I were getting close, and eventually there were feelings manifesting, and I could not do that.
So you wanted it to be more of just like
platonic.
Yeah.
Like, I was even learning how to sign.
So like platonic sexual?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Mm-mm. And eventually, like, he's like, I'm like, I like you. I'm like, well, I like you too. He's like, no, but I like you. I'm like, oh. Mm. And then I told Carlos that. He's like, oh. I'm like, yeah. And that's one thing we don't get involved in as far as like emotions. Mm-hmm. It's completely different scenario. And I'm sorry, I can't give you what you want.
Yeah.
And it sucked.
Yeah.
And we just fizzled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't get involved in like
open relationship stuff?
Yeah. Like what's the line for you guys?
Like open relationships?
Yeah.
As long as you don't want to be friends with us for that purpose.
Got you. Okay.
And I picked up on that very quickly with you, just from things you kind of shared about trying to make couple friends or single
judge
friends.
Anyone's relationship, what they want to do, their private life, whatever. But if you want to come just to use us for that reason, then you're barking up the wrong tree.
Okay.
For sure.
So is sex still an option for you and Carlos and whomever else?
If we don't feel that,
as long as there's not like a predatory, like I don't want to say predatory, but like a using kind of
my thing is being used. I have history with that. Yeah, it's not a good feeling. Carlos and I are not completely monogamous, but we're not open either. It's just whatever we feel the vibe is, the person is, or persons is. Yeah, we don't have much experience with it. We've been together for 4 years now. Yeah. Maybe not even a handful of experiences together, right? But we know what works for both of us. Yeah. And we just hope that people just respect us first as people, as a couple, then trying to just be greedy. That is what I don't like. Greed. Gotcha. Sex can be greedy.
Okay. I'm sure we'll have more to say about the whole non-monogamous thing at some point in one of our other episodes, but that's not the topic of this one. But what I want to do before we go is kind of get maybe one little piece of advice from everyone for somebody who may be going through a friendship breakup, and what can we give to that person who is kind of going through it right now. Okay. Yeah. Greg, why don't you start us off?
Well, I guess before getting to that point, I feel like I've been through enough experiences in life recently and have done some work on myself that it's I'm always so eager to jump into a relationship or friendship similar to you, and I don't have the capacity to turn it off, much like you learned to sign. That was a really beautiful way of showing that you were kind of invested in this person and this friendship. I definitely think I have a habit of putting myself out too much with new people, and I need to let it be earned. So for me, if anything, for me personally, to avoid getting to a situation where I feel oh, this isn't working out because I'm putting something in and the other person isn't, and then I'm the one that's getting hurt. I've just been more cautious with how I let people into my lives, and just finding out early on, do they have the capacity to work with me, similar to the situation. It didn't work out, and I think now you would probably approach those situations a little differently, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's good to take accountability and kind of see what your part was in it, and then try to know better for the future. I said that I didn't know what my part was in the other thing, but I think a big thing for me was just kind of jumping into it, getting very deep, putting myself emotionally into this place. I mean, this lasted for about 1.5 years, so I think it was reciprocated on some level, but not enough. I mean, in the end, it wasn't enough. Just try not to jump into stuff too deeply at first. Try to invest a little bit and then see what they give back to you is what I would say. And I think that goes for dating or anything else, any other kind of relationship like that.
I agree with that, because even with you, I reached out to Greg to talk before recording just to get to know him better, and I'm glad I did it because we formed our own little friendship.
You'll be going to dinners and stuff without me.
We cute.
Sorry about it. As far as dealing with a friendship breakup, which I've had many, usually they're emotionally based, and when it's beyond your control, there's nothing you can do about it, really, unless that person wants to repair or fix or something. I don't know. You can't force someone to do something they don't want to do, or if they're not giving you something that you require, or they're not trying to cross a boundary, new people always come along, That's the thing about friendships.
That's the thing. It's try not to get too deep into the sorrow.
Enjoy the time you've had with the person. Yeah. The memories I have mine with my friend that obviously still triggers me years later down the road now. And those are happy memories for me. That's all I can think about. Yeah. If I were to reach out to him today, I don't know. I would be afraid of his partner be no. And I was like, you know what? Let me just avoid that.
I mean, it's already happened once, so what's the worst thing that's gonna happen? It happens again.
Yeah. But it's okay.
So we're leaving the Band-Aid on.
It's okay.
Well, on that note, I want to thank you all for joining us for this episode. Thank you, Noel and Greg. Great first episode. So remember, until next time, if you have no one else,
you have us.
You got us.
You got us.
Did you say you have us?
I think so.
I need you to come on.
You don't even know your own tagline.